live now on Twitch. Welcome to this week's edition of Current Nerd News. See the time behind me? It is, technically it's still 6:59. Okay. Yeah, technically it's still 6:59, so I'll probably give it another minute. We're currently streaming on Twitch. Feel free to drop your questions, comments, concerns right in the comments section below. You can, talk to us directly. Cobbs Corner. I'm your host, Morgan Cobbs. The shirt I'm wearing tonight is New Rock Stars. This was the shirt that, with their merch partners, Nerd Riot, they did a shirt for the recent Super Mario Bros. Movie, which we will be talking about in this week's episode. And so yeah, definitely subscribe to New Rock Stars if you guys haven't done so already. I've talked about them in past episodes, but so let's just jump into it. Gosh, what a week! What a week it has been since we last spoke. I mean, we've had a lot of trailers dropped this week alone. So starting, and this is not something I usually do, starting with DC, because I know this podcast has been very Marvel heavy, very Marvel focused. I mean, I literally started my podcast by reviewing all of the Marvel movies, but don't worry, DC fans, I have not forgotten about you guys. This Blue Beetle trailer, guys, I mean, come on. This movie looks amazing. I cannot believe that Warner Bros. Was initially going to just put this movie on HBO Max, and now it's getting a theatrical release. I'm very glad that it's getting a theatrical release. I'm excited about this movie now that we've gotten this trailer. If you guys remember when I did the Fantasy Movie League, I think back in like January with Star Wars and everyone else, I had said the reason why I had picked Shazam! Fury of the Gods as one of my picks was because I wasn't overly confident in the other three DC films that are coming out this year. Like we still to come. We got Joker, Blue Beetle, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. At the time, we hadn't gotten a single trailer for Joker or Blue Beetle. As of this episode, we still haven't gotten a trailer for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. But after getting that trailer for Blue Beetle, it's like, okay, yeah, all right, I can see where this is going. It looks like an exciting solo superhero movie. I feel like DC does better with, like, just looking at the DCEU, which I guess after the movie The Flash, like this is going to be the first movie to come out after The Flash, after whatever the DC reset that's going to happen in The Flash. So, and I guess it's going to be the the live action DC universe, not the DC extended universe. But I think even going back to like the DC extended universe, I think they did a better job when they focused on like solo characters. I think movies like Wonder Woman, Shazam, movies that focused on just one character, those are usually the movies that have worked, I think. So it looks like with Blue Beetle, it's just going to focus on Jaime Mendez or Hyman. So looks like he's gonna get this scarab. He's being played by, and I will go through the cast now. I will get all of my pronunciations, all the names correct. So Cholo Maridueña will be playing the Blue Beetle. Jaime Reyes. Yep, Jaime Reyes, who his the whole like lore of Blue Beetle, like he's a very interesting character who I'm only really like finding out about like within the last like few months. So he's a DC character who I think is very interesting. They got a star-studded cast. He's like the first Hispanic uh, DC superhero to get his own live action film. This feels definitely it feels like a DC film, like just from the trailer. Like it definitely feels like a DC film, and I say that in a good way. Like it doesn't feel like they're trying to copy off of Marvel or like rush to anything. Like it feels like a standalone film. And yes, it's got George Lopez, so it's definitely got some comedy in it as well. And I'm really looking forward to this movie. It almost kind of gave me like some of the shots in the trailer. It gave me almost like Iron Man vibes, like the scene in Iron Man where we see him use like the Iron Man Mark II for the very first time, like that first flight. Hands down, like my favorite scene in that movie, and like some of my favorite shots of that film are in that scene where we see like Tony fly through Malibu, and then he flies too high, and then he freezes, and you know so only difference is like with Jaime Reyes, like with the Blue Beetle, we get a shot of him flying up to outer space. So it's giving me Iron Man, almost even like Mark 50. Like it kind of not to compare this movie too much to Marvel, not to like really compare DC to Marvel too heavily, but the Scarab definitely gave me like Mark 50 vibes. It's like the Scarab, like it protects its host and it can create literally anything that the host wants it to create. So you got like a whole like he created like a whole infinity blade at the end of the trailer. So so yeah, I actually thought that was pretty badass. And and also and also I think that this movie is probably going to be similar to like maybe like any of the original Spider-Man movies, like any like Spider-Man 1, like whether if it's like the 2002 Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, or maybe 2012 Andrew Garfield The Amazing Spider-Man, or even Spider-Man Homecoming with Tom Holland. It's like the very first the first Spider-Man movie of that franchise, where we see that Peter Parker is like he's just this new superhero, this new kind of street level superhero who is still learning how to do things, or still learning how to be a superhero. But then also, he's got like a Spanish quiz, and he's also like in school. So I'm looking forward to definitely. I'm looking forward to the dynamic between Jaime Reyes, the student, and Jaime Reyes, the superhero. So him being a new superhero, him knowing it's like I don't really know what I have to do, but whatever it is, I got to do it. And him handling his responsibilities as a superhero, and standing up for what is right, while also being a student and just being like a kid, and also dealing with that. So I'm looking forward to that. And this film honestly feels like a movie that we don't really have to worry about, like where's Superman, or like the Justice League or Black Adam, or any like the big scale like DC, like the DC reset. Like this movie is like a solo film that we can all just kind of show up to the theaters and just sit back, relax, and enjoy, and not have to worry about like the larger DCU. And I will say DC, they do movies like that. They do them really well. A lot of those movies, they come out really good. Wonder Woman, again, Wonder Woman, Shazam, even going all the way back to like the Dark Knight trilogy. When you have a movie that's focused on just one character's origin story, and you don't spend endless amounts of time trying to connect this one story to the larger universe, or even multiverse for that matter. When you can kind of just get your priorities straight, focus on establishing one character at a time, telling one story at a time, then it works out, and it all pays off in the long run. So Blue Beetle in hits theaters on, gosh, when is the release date? think August. Hold on. Blue Beetle release date August 18th. Yep, see Blue Beetle in theaters on Friday, August 18th, 2023. I know I will. Well, actually, I most likely will not be seeing it in theaters on account of I will most likely not be in the United States at that time. I will probably will have started my 2-year teaching job in Micronesia, which I'm not sure if I've explicitly like stated on this podcast that starting in August I will be I'll be going and living in Micronesia, which is for my listeners abroad. For my listeners in Australia, Micronesia is actually near Australia. It's in like that same area, Australia and Oceania. So I will be over there temporarily for like 2 years. So the content might slow down a bit, or I might not be able to really talk about movies. No, I might not really be able to talk about like current and like modern movies as quickly as I am now. Now that I'm here in like the United States, I'm going to like a whole nother part of the world where I know for a fact the island that I'm going to be staying at does not have movie theaters. So Blue Beetle, I will do my best to see it in theaters if I can, and I will cover it at some point. Okay, Cobbs Corner, we're not going anywhere. We are not going anywhere. I will find a way, I promise. But Blue Beetle hits theaters this summer. Go check it out. And moving right along, because 12 minutes in, and I really want to cover content. Secret Invasion dropped a trailer. I want to say that trailer dropped the same day as Blue Beetle. Secret Invasion, this is the second trailer that we've gotten for it. We got one trailer for it earlier this year. It is one of the 2 Marvel series that we know are confirmed for Phase 5. A lot of Marvel shows have been put as coming soon. Like we still got Agatha Coven of Chaos. At some point, Spider-Man freshman year, literally just before we started recording, I saw a post on Instagram about X-Men 97, which, animated. But as far as live action, we know this year we're getting Secret Invasion, June 21st, 2023. And I want to say Loki season 2 is also coming this year as well. But as far as Secret Invasion, we in the trailer we see what looks like an abandoned like Russian nuclear power plant, which may or may not be Chernobyl, because even in real life, like Chernobyl is the one that the international community knows about. Like there were more nuclear testing sites that were abandoned in the former Soviet Union. So maybe this is one of those abandoned sites. And we see the scrolls again. Like it really just gave me like, I don't know, maybe like not like spy, like Jason Bourne, James Bond vibes, but there is a character who kind of reminds me of M, like Agent M from the James Bond films. I think this show is going to focus heavily on Nick Fury and the Skrulls. We might see Super Skrulls in this show. It is a show, not a movie, and so for the uninitiated, Super Skrulls are pretty much a kind of Skrull that would not just replicate a person's appearance, but like they would be the Skrulls of a Skrull of a, say, like a superhero, and they would be able to mimic not just that person's appearance but also their abilities as well. So I think we're going to see Super Skrulls, although after Captain Marvel, in Captain Marvel we saw that Talos and his like tribe of Skrulls, that they were really just looking for a home. They were refugees. They were on the wrong side. They were the victims of an unjust war that the Kree had declared on them. So 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 we saw in Captain Marvel how like Skrulls were pretty much friendly with the Earth, with Earth beings, and with Nick Fury. And so, and the post credit scene from Spider-Man Far From Home, it's revealed that Nick Fury was in space. They even mentioned it in Spider-Man No Way Home. Like they mentioned like the DODC, who we did see, who we the Department of Damage Control, who we did see some sort of like specimen in some like metal briefcase that said Department of Damage Control on it. The DODC, when they apprehended Peter Parker in Spider-Man No Way Home, they mentioned like Nick Fury's been on the moon for Nick Fury's been in space for the past like however many years. And I did sort of mention I think I recently did audio commentary for Spider-Man Far From Home. So definitely check that out. And yeah, that's available on all streaming platforms. I mentioned how with the post-credit scene of Spider-Man Far From Home, in addition to the fact that Nick Fury was technically declared dead in Captain America the Winter Soldier, and like the fact that we see him again throughout Winter Soldier, and he pops up periodically throughout the MCU, like in the years that followed between Winter Soldier and Spider-Man Far From Home in those 5 years. But then that post credit scene, it's like, okay, now Nick Fury's been in space now with what looks like Sword, probably, well, maybe, and so I'm really just interested to see like the ambiguity of the character of Nick Fury, because we see another grave for Colonel Nicholas J. Fury. My theory is that gravestone is for Nick Fury's father. Now I guess this is for kind of like the older Marvel fans. The David Hasselhoff Nick Fury. Like there was like a really old movie. I think it was like in the 80s or 90s. It was like Nick Fury, Agent of Shield or something like that. So so yeah, this is like probably a grave for Nick Fury's father, or it's another fake grave for Nick Fury, like where he, I guess, I don't know, was supposedly KIA in. He was supposedly killed in action, while he was in the army, because we do hear him mentioned in Captain America. Oh no, my bad. Captain Marvel. It's been a long day, guys. Where we do hear him mention in that bar how he did enlist in the army straight out of high school and then left the service with the rank of a full-bird colonel. What if he didn't actually leave the service, but he, I guess, like faked his own death or whatever? Like faked his own death or whatever, and while he was serving overseas, I guess during the Cold War, and then a fake, and then there was probably a fake funeral and like a fake tombstone was put there, and then he joined Shield, and then when Shield fell, he, I guess, faked his death again, but also. And again, there's the ambiguity, but like also like what if, like my theory was, what if Nick Fury actually did die in in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and that he was being played by a Skrull this whole time? Because I mean, he mentions in Captain Marvel, it's like, I'm really geeking out here, guys. It's like he says like, oh, if toast is cut diagonally, I can't eat it. In Avengers Age of Ultron, we see him eating like bread that's cut diagonally. So Eric Voss has really gone in depth with that. But Secret Invasion. Last thing I'll say about the Skrulls. Let me know in the comments, guys. Who do you think is a Skrull? Who do you think has been posing as a Skrull this whole time? Has War Machine been posing as a Skrull this whole time? There's probably got to be some meta joke about him being recast, about how Rhodey was he was Terrence. He was played by Terrence Howard in Iron Man, and then Iron Man 2, they recast him as Don Cheadle. We do see Rhodey wearing a suit. Like he showed up briefly for that one scene in Falcon and the Winter Soldier where he was in like full like army, or I guess Air Force uniform. He was actually like in uniform, but we see him in a suit now. So my guess is he might have a cabinet position at this point. He's probably either Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War. We know from Captain America: Civil War that Thaddeus Ross is now Secretary of State. We are going to see the President of the United States in this movie. He will, I think, be played by. Oh, and then also, yep, Everett Ross, who I will get to in a second. I'm really kind of dissecting. I want to say, hold on, President Ritson, I think. So we know that we are going to get a version of the President of the United States in this movie. Yep, Ritson. Yep, Ritson. President Ritson is current, I guess, in the MCU, current president of the United States. He will be played by Dermot Mulroney. Dermot Mulroney. And we know also that Thaddeus Ross is Secretary of State. And if I'm not mistaken, the Secretary of State is somewhere in line to assume the role of the president. So we know that Harrison Ford will be showing up in Captain America: New World Order as President Thaddeus Ross and not as Secretary of State. It's my understanding that it goes President and then Vice President and then Speaker of the House and then I guess the acting President pro tempore, whomever, and then it goes into like the cabinet positions. So who knows? Maybe like the U.S. government and like the governments of the world have been infiltrated by the Skrulls, and then President Ritson is probably going to get killed, and then whoever's vice president is just going to go down the line, and then maybe this is a setup for Thunderbolts, a setup for Captain America: New World Order. Who knows? Also, my theory is that we saw Everett Ross. He got picked up by Okoye at the end of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. He, I guess, sided with the Wakandans. Him being a former CIA agent and I guess ex-husband of Val, who is the current secretary of the current secretary of the MCU's version of the CIA, current CIA director, who may or may not show up in Secret Invasion. Who knows? But the fact that the two of them are, ex-husband and wife, and then at the end of the movie we see Everett Ross. He is imprisoned, but then his caravan is stopped by Okoye, so Okoye frees him. We do know that Martin Freeman will be showing up as Everett Ross in this movie, in this show. My bad, and he's probably going to be on the run from the law. He's going to be in the show in some capacity. My question, I guess the main question I have going into Secret Invasion is, are they going to kill off Nick Fury? Because I know Nick Fury, he says like, oh, it's personal. It's like, I have to do this alone. One last fight. That's usually what someone says when they're about to die. So I'm wondering, will they kill off Nick Fury in Secret Invasion? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, let me know, guys. Like, are you guys excited for Blue Beetle? Are you excited for Secret Invasion? Let me know. Last trailer that I will talk about briefly is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I actually saw the trailer for that movie when I saw Super Mario Bros., which is a segue into our next topic. Again, shout out New Rockstars. Go get their merch. They do a lot of great stuff over at New Rockstars. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse looks amazing. Honestly, it looks amazing. I like how they have sort of this portal into the multiverse of like all the different variations of Spider-Man. I mean, the cast, we got some returners, we got some returning cast members. We got Joe Johnson as Peter B. Parker, Peter Parker from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Oscar Isaac as Spider-Man 2099. Shamik Moore as Miles Morales. Haley Steinfeld as Ghost Spider. Brian Tyree Henry as Miles' father, Jefferson Davis. Bringing in Issa Rae as Spider-Woman. So Jorma Tacone as Vulture, Jorma Tacone from Lonely Island. So there's a lot of talent working on this movie. One thing I found really funny was how Miles Morales, like, he's half black, half Hispanic, and at the, I guess, parent teacher conference, there's it's like, I guess there's like the guidance counselor or the advisor, whomever, and in the office is Miles, his mother Maria Morales, and his father Jefferson Davis, and his father Jeff, and they find out that Miles has like an A, either an A or an A plus in AP Physics, but he's got a B in Spanish. To which, like, the father says, like, "Are you trying to get me killed, son?" Like, so I mean, I found that funny, given that Miles is half Hispanic. It's like, yeah, and I always wonder like what that's like, growing up in a mixed race household like that. When you have like, in Miles' case, like, he has a black father and a Hispanic mother. It's like is he supposed to be fluent in Spanish, and then like, but does his father speak Spanish as well? So yeah, but yeah, I mean, this movie looks amazing. One powerful line in the trailer was, Miles saying, everybody thinks that they know what's best for me. Everybody's trying to tell me what to do. It's like, I'm about to do this for me. I want to, do this for me. Everybody's trying to tell me how my story is supposed to go. So I'm liking the sort of coming of age moments of this movie, and it's sort of doubling down on the themes of like coming of age and doing what's right, and also being a kid at the same time. Miles Morales, I think in the first movie he was maybe like in like middle school. I want to say, he was like either middle school or high school in Into the Spider-Verse, which I saw in theaters and I loved it. And yeah, I just think that this movie, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I'm not sure if it's like Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 or Part 2, but I mean, nope, just Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It's got a reported 2-hour runtime, and just overall, I mean, the visual effects, it looks stunning. I think like a lot of times with a lot of, and maybe it's different because this is an animated movie, but specifically for live action movies with Marvel and with DC, a lot of times they get caught up in the spectacle. They get caught up in the visual effects, the graphics, the graphics and the visual effects. Like, it's a big giant spectacle, and then they don't focus enough on the story. I think that's what happened with Black Adam, was a little too much visual effects, a little too much spectacle, not enough of a concrete story that I can get invested in and actually like enjoy. That is not the case. That was not the case with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It could have been the case, given that it's an animated film, and the animation in that film, phenomenal, superb. It earned its Oscar win for Best Animated Feature. I still consider Into the Spider-Verse to be the best Spider-Man movie ever. Like, theatrical release. Spider-Man 2, well, for me, Spider-Man 2 will always be my favorite live action Spider-Man movie. So if we're talking just a live action Spider-Man movies, Spider-Man 2 is the best. Spider-Man No Way Home, second best. I think, dare I say, we never would have gotten Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home wouldn't have been as great as it was if we hadn't gotten the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy in the 2000s, specifically Spider-Man 2 back in 2004. But overall, Into the Spider-Verse is my all-time favorite Spider-Man movie. Across the Spider-Verse, do I think it's going to top Into the Spider-Verse? We'll see. I think more recently, John Wick Chapter 4 was able to surpass, in my opinion, Chapter 4 was way better than the first one. All right. It was way better than the first one, but that doesn't happen very often. We don't always have like a sequel, especially not like a third or fourth movie come out better than the first one. So being that this is the second one, the second movie in, I guess, the Spider-Man animated, Spider-Verse franchise, I think it's gonna be a great film. I think it's going to be a great film. There might be an Oscar nomination in there, maybe. I don't want to get my hopes up, but I will definitely be covering that movie. And I'm actually glad that movie comes out, I think, in June. We get the official release date. Release date all in the trailers. June 2nd. Yep, June 2nd. It was okay. Originally, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was set for release on April 8th, 2022. Right, because I think I remember seeing like a teaser trailer for it like last year, like maybe late 2021. It was eventually shifted to October 7th, 2022, due to the pandemic, of course. Due to the pandemic and the fact that movie theaters were kind of closed here in the United States for the majority of 2020 and 2021. I didn't start going to the movies again until July of 2021. So like a solid year and a half, I didn't go to a single movie. Like solid, almost a year and a half, about 17 months, almost 18 months outside of the theater. So yeah, pandemic and production schedules. So shifted to October 7th, 2022 due to pandemic-related box office performance fears. Understandable. And as we all know, it didn't make that date either. The final release date for the movie is June 2nd, 2023. This might be one of the last movies that I see before going to Micronesia. I will make an effort to see this movie in theaters. I'll do my best to see it opening night, opening weekend. I will have graduated by then, so I will definitely I'm definitely going to do my best to actually see this movie in theaters. It looks amazing. It's got a star-studded cast. Let me know what you guys think about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. On to the main event for tonight. Again, the shirt that I'm wearing. It's the third time I'm pointing it out. The Super Mario Bros. Movie. All right, so the Super Mario Bros. Movie came out yesterday. I'm recording this again. I'm recording this on Thursday, April 6th, 2023. This episode will be available. If you're listening to a recording of this episode, then you're listening to it after it's been made available everywhere tomorrow, Friday, April 7th, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's the rule for all of these CNN live streams. Is Thursday nights 7 p.m. on Twitch. Everywhere else, Friday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you have not yet seen Super Mario Bros., don't worry. I'm not going to go into spoiler territory in this episode. I'll leave that for a later episode down the line. But if you maybe don't want to know anything at all about about this movie, then I suggest you probably click away from this episode. Then again, I'm not going to go into spoilers. So Super Mario Bros. I feel like a lot of pressure to create a Super Mario Bros. Movie, or especially after the Super Mario Bros. Movie that we got back in like the 90s with John Leguizamo. Now, I haven't seen that movie, but it's like I've said about pretty much every live action pretty much every live action video game movie is they're all either really bad or they're so bad that they're good. You know. So from what I've heard, the live action Super Mario Bros. Movie was so bad that it was actually good. This movie is none of that. This movie, an animated movie, it is for kids. So parents listening, definitely take your kids to see it. But with Mario, Mario is like the most popular video game character out there, and I feel like I can say that given that I'm not the biggest gamer now. I mean, I played video games more when I was like, I don't know, single digits, preteen. I think as soon as I like got into like high school, I kind of like stopped. I kind of lost interest in gaming, and plus, as a kid, you kind of go through your phases, and so I definitely had a Mario phase as a kid. Granted, I can't really remember owning any Mario games. Now that I think about it, I mean, I remember I had GameFly, and I think I rented at one point. I rented Mario Kart Wii. I rented, I think, New Super Mario Bros. For the Wii, and I just remember as a kid, I would always go over to my cousin's house, and we would always play Mario Kart. We would always play Super Mario Bros. I played it on the DS. I played Mario Kart 7, Smash Bros Brawl, and Smash Bros Wii U, Smash Bros Ultimate. So I have some nostalgic connection to Mario. Granted, I am not old enough to have played Super Mario 64 or Mario Kart 64, which I understand were the flagship release titles for the Nintendo 64, along with Banjo Kazooie and Ocarina of Time. All that is before my time. But I say all that to say that with the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the question of who do you tailor this movie to, because Mario's been around for like 4 decades at this point. It's like, do you tailor it to maybe the parents who, the parents who are maybe in like their 30s and 40s and who played Mario, who might have played Mario games back in like the 80s and 90s, on the NES, the Super Nintendo, the N64. Like, do you tailor it to that era of video game of Marvel fans, of Mario fans, I should say, or do you tailor it to the younger generation? I guess those of us. Well, I guess those of us around my age, those of us will say between the ages of like 18 and 25, like because I'm 22 years young. Like those of us who kind of grew up in like the 2000s, like 2010s, do you tailor it to like that age range, or do you tailor it to like the new to like the young kids, like anyone who's like, say, under 18 now, kids who are under 18, kids who are in like elementary school, like, do we tailor it to them? And I think this movie had something for everyone. I definitely think that there were a lot of references to Mario games. It definitely felt like the plot of a Mario game. I think certain creative liberties were taken. Mario's not trying to save Princess Peach, and instead, Luigi, without going into spoiler territory, Luigi gets captured, and I feel like this isn't really a spoiler because I think it was in the trailer. Luigi gets captured, and instead, it's Mario who has to team up with Princess Peach to go and save his brother Luigi. And I think the voice acting choices were actually phenomenal. I think Chris Pratt did an amazing job as Mario. Chris Pratt and Charlie Day. Charlie Day as Luigi, just amazing. I only wish that Luigi got more screen time. Um, just off the fact that he was like, just off the fact that he was kind of MIA because he was captured. Anya Taylor Joy as Princess Peach, Keegan Michael Key as Toad. Toad, whew, man, Toad. That character is solid comic relief. A lot of comedy actors in the voice actors as the voice of characters. Jack Black as Bowser, gold, just gold, right? I mean, and the fact that like Bowser wanted to impress Princess Peach or whatever. You know, overall, it was just a pretty. It was a fun movie. It was a fun, cute movie. That this was the first like video game movie that I can say that I enjoyed. And I guess I didn't have like I guess you got to go into this movie with zero expectations because it's a kids movie, because it's a PG movie, because again, adult nerds like myself, those who are older than me and who have kids, and maybe you remember playing Mario Kart when you remember playing Mario on the N64 when you were your kid's age, or 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 when you were little, like maybe you have nostalgia for Mario and your child also plays Mario, and that just shows like the timelessness of the character. Both you as a parent and your child will both enjoy the film. I mean, the film is definitely for everyone. It's not like movies like Shrek where there's like you know blatantly adult humor in the with this like adult humor in the movies, and then it's like it all goes over the kid's head, and then like in my case I've been able to kind of grow up with the movie Shrek. I mean, it literally came out the year I was born, 2001, and I've rewatched it a million times, and I've as I've gotten older I've picked up on things. Super Mario Bros is not that movie. All right. um it's breaking box office records, and yeah, I mean it's doing great at the box office, but the one I don't really have any complaints about the movie other than the fact that there aren't enough of the scenes that show the journey, that show going from place to place. It's like, okay, so we're at point A and we got to go to point B. It's like there's not a whole lot of those like how did we get there scenes. There's a lot of like dependency on like, okay, like let's get to the destination. Let's not really show you how we got there. um the Rainbow Road scene, amazing. The Kong country. All right, Seth Rogen is Donkey Kong again. It's like it's just perfect casting. But yeah, I guess the Kong the Kong country. It's definitely a cart driven economy, and there's a scene where like they're picking out all their carts, and I feel as if I'm like playing like it's almost like I'm playing Mario Kart. And it's funny, like the Illumination intro to the movie, and that's another thing. This movie is made by, I guess, Nintendo in association with Illumination, and seeing one of the minions like in the cart, and then he puts his foot on the gas at the start. Where it's like he's like already got his foot on the gas, and it goes 3, 2, 1, and then he gets like left, and then he gets like left in the dust. He's got to like stay, and then he's got to like stay behind. And there's all those like dust clouds. Like I just had like a bunch of flashbacks to playing Mario Kart on like the Wii, and like the trick was you had to wait until they got to the number two. It was like three, and then once you saw two, then you put your foot, then you put your foot on the gas, then you press like I don't know, it was like number like one or two. It's like, but you don't accelerate until you see the number two, and then it's like two, accelerate, and then one, and then go, and then you got a boost. So I mean, subtle like callbacks to the video games like that, callbacks Mario Mario Kart, like to Super Mario Bros. And to Mario Kart. I mean, it was just an all around fun movie. Like I saw it in theaters, and I don't regret it. I definitely think that it's worth it to see it in theaters. The movie was not. It's my understanding that this movie was not filmed for IMAX. It was not filmed for 3D. So I saw it in like basic 2D. I think. I mean, shoot. I mean, you can see it. If you can see it in IMAX if you want to. You don't have to. But because I know Blue Beetle was filmed for IMAX because it like says that in the trailer. I'm the kind of person who like if a movie is not filmed for a specific format, I'm not going to see it in that format. But if the movie is filmed for that format, if it's filmed for IMAX, filmed for 3D, I'm going to see it in 3D. That's not the case with Super Mario Bros. You can just see it in regular 2D and have a good time. And yeah, I mean it's just fun for the whole family, which I know sounds super cliche. Um, if I had to give it a score on a scale from 1 to 10, I'd probably give it like a 7.2, maybe like yes, 7.2. Because again, I went in without any real expectations, and I enjoyed myself. I had fun. I had fun. I actually saw it. I saw it the day it came out. Like it came out yesterday. I saw it in the afternoon. So my rationale behind that was that if I went in the afternoon, then like okay, well most people are okay. Well, most kids are in school now, and most adults are at work. But nope, there were actually a couple kids in the in the theater there. Um, but which was not a problem at all. But I saw folks there like dressed up as the characters. Like I actually wore this shirt. Like if you guys saw if you guys saw the TikTok that I did, which was like my raw initial reaction out of the theater, I actually wore this shirt in my well, it's a video that I posted on TikTok and also on and also on Instagram. It's also an Instagram reel that I posted. Just my like initial reaction to Super Mario Bros. To the Super Mario Bros. Movie. But yeah, I stand by that rating, 7.2 out of 10. I'm going to check out IMDb and see what IMDb is saying about. Oh, well, okay. While I'm like going through IMDb, I will tell you guys about another trailer that I saw for the Barbie movie, which has Ryan Gosling, Margot Robbie, and um, who else? Freaking Ryan Gosling. You know, I actually haven't seen any of Ryan Gosling's movies. Now that I think about it, but this movie actually looks pretty hilarious. It's funny. There's actually a scene where it's like Ken asks Barbie, like, I was wondering, can I stay the night at your place? And then she asks, like, why? What would we even do? He's like, I don't know. I mean, because we're boyfriend and girlfriend. So. That's kind of their way of saying, like, look, we're not going to get demonetized before this movie comes out. But trying to find like how much money the movie has made. Uh, Google. All right, so yeah, Super Mario Bros. Mushrooms to $141 million, currently second best 5-day debut. So this is from this article from Deadline. Super Mario Bros. Isn't falling down a pipe with strong 22 million plus dollar Thursday, still on track for 141 million 5-day box office. So yeah, this movie is doing well at the box office, and that's just one article. Well, most recent article. It's from like that was published less than an hour ago, and so the movie's actually doing pretty well. IMDb gave it a score of 7.5 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10. I personally don't really have a problem with that. I'll probably go more in depth in the spoiler review when I eventually do a spoiler review of this movie. Rotten Tomatoes, you got it right with John Wick Chapter 4. Audience said 96%, critics said 96%. This time, Rotten Tomatoes, you got it wrong. Critical score on Rotten Tomatoes, 53%. Audience score, 96%. And I'll kind of end on this. We got like about 10 minutes left. This is a kids movie, and I understand that Rotten Tomatoes is mostly run by like adults. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that most of the people working for Rotten Tomatoes, you guys are all adults. And I'm sure some of you are parents as well. Now, again, I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I saw it in theaters. I lean closer to the audience score. I maybe wouldn't have given it 96%. I would have given it maybe like 86, 87%. Again, I gave it like a 7.2 out of 10. So I definitely don't agree with the critical score. I think this is another example of Rotten Tomatoes being overly critical of certain films and certain genres. You have to understand that not every film has to be the best or the worst film ever. And there's all these different genres of film, and like not every movie is either The Godfather or The Room, if that makes sense. And I also think that maybe they're like too critical of it because it's a video game movie, and the fact that we haven't gotten like a single live action video game film. All right. I'm not including the Last of Us. Okay, the Last of Us doesn't count because it's a show, but the live action video game movies that we've gotten, okay, Tomb Raider, Uncharted, Doom, Rampage, the live action Super Mario Bros. Movie, Mortal Kombat, they all kind of come out bad. They all come out bad. Like none of them are knock your socks off. Even the Mortal Kombat movie that came out 2 years ago, liked it, wasn't blown away. It was okay. It was okay. It was on HBO Max. I'm glad I didn't go to see that in theaters. That is not the case with Super Mario Bros. Super Mario Bros. Again, Mario's a different kind of character because he's an animated video game character. This is an animated film, and he's been around for so long. So there's just so much that they could have done. I think, given that it's a character that's been around for almost like 40 years, like he has been a part of. He's a multi-generational character. He's been a part of not just my childhood, but also I'm sure listeners who are much older than me. I guess people in their 30s and 40s, maybe even early 50s, who played video games as a kid. Anyone who grew up in the 80s, the 80s kids, 90s kids. He's like really just one of like the like OG video game, one of the most iconic video game characters who has really stood the test of time. And I think that for them to give it a 53% score on Rotten Tomatoes, I think they don't understand how, when you're doing a film that I think the reported runtime was an hour and a half, which for kids movies is actually pretty solid. I think, again, maybe if they had bumped it up to like an hour and 45 minutes, we would have gotten maybe a bit more action in terms of like the whole like the lack of scenes where there's the journey to the destination. Then that would have maybe bumped it up to like an hour and 40, hour and 45. But they clock in around an hour and 30 minutes, which is standard for a kid's movie. Like this movie is rated PG. But my only worry is that with Rotten Tomatoes, that they're holding every movie to the standard of John Wick 4. They're holding every movie to that standard, when like a movie like Super Mario Bros. Isn't even in the same genre, isn't even in the same rating. I mean, John Wick Chapter 4 is rated R. This is like a whole 2 ratings below that. So I think it's really just not fair for everyone who worked on this film and who really like worked hard. Lots of blood, sweat, and tears went into the making of this movie during COVID as well. So I personally, I'm with the audience. This again goes into why I don't even look that heavily on the critical score of a movie, because sometimes it matches the audience and sometimes it doesn't. And I highly recommend that everyone listening to this episode, you guys go out and see all the movies that I talked about today and formulate your own opinion. And formulate your own opinion. Come back to me. It's like, where do we agree? Do we disagree? Where do we agree? Where do we agree to disagree? And just keep moving. And like how I'm doing with Rotten Tomatoes, it's like, okay, tomato score. If you want to give it like 55%, was it 50? Oh wow, 53%. Yeah, 53%, which I think is lower than the Incredible Hulk. Again, agree or disagree. I side with the audience. This movie is breaking box office records. Maybe we'll get a sequel. Who knows? Go see the Super Mario Bros. Movie in theaters. Yep, it is currently in theaters everywhere. Go check it out this weekend. Parents, take your kids to see it. See it in theaters. Do not wait for it on stream. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's all that I've got to talk about today in terms of movies. I would like to give out a few thank yous. I've been doing this podcast for a minute. I've been at it almost a year. Been at it like 11 months. So I just like to thank you guys for we have reached 110 followers on Instagram. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for following me on Instagram, for liking my posts, liking my Instagram reels, sharing this podcast. So far, I think I've got 25 followers on Spotify. So shout out to all my listeners on Spotify. If you're listening to this episode on Spotify, thank you so much for 25 followers on Spotify, on YouTube, which is really something that I've sort of like the podcast didn't really like start out on YouTube. Like I really make my episodes through primarily through Spotify, and then like we like to distribute it to other platforms. But shout out to everyone who subscribed to my YouTube channel. I've got 21 subscribers. Okay, this is just like tip of the iceberg. Like let's get our next goal for YouTube. We're at 21 subscribers. Let's get that number up to like 25, 30 subscribers. Instagram, let's get up to 200 subscribers. Spotify, we're at 25. Let's go up to 50 subscribers. Okay, so far, as of the recording of this episode, I have released 41 episodes so far. I'd like to get that number up to 100 at some point. But thank you to each and every one of my listeners. Thank you to all of you for listening to my podcast, for supporting this podcast. We are not going anywhere, and I greatly appreciate each and every one of you listening. Without you guys, there is no podcast. Without you guys, without the listeners, without your support, without you guys listening to my podcast, sharing it, that is how we grow as a family. And I consider you all my family. I consider you all, the Cobbs Corner. Like if you watch my Instagram reels, I say Cobbs Corner fam. I consider you guys my family. Any suggestions for a fandom name for Cobbs Corner, let me know in the comments. Again, just feel free to hit me up on Instagram or TikTok. Instagram, TikTok. You can also email me at cobbscornerpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to respond to all of your questions, comments, and concerns, any of your theories from today's episode. If you liked today's episode, then be sure to listen to Cobbs Corner And well, be sure to follow Cobb's Corner wherever you get your podcasts, and turn on your post notifications because I drop a new episode every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you definitely do not want to miss out. I will talk to all of you in the next episode. Peace.